Hey, everybody. Welcome to our breakdown of Square Enix Presents E3 2021. They actually announced a lot, and they also announced not a lot at the same time, but we're going to go through everything. With me is Alex Parker.
Hi.
Andrew Rock.
Hello, good to be here.
And Dan Rockwood is here to help you break everything down. I'm Nick Maye, and I'm in all of these. So, yeah, let's get started with the first announcement. One that was actually, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it was kind of surprising that we saw so much of it. Guardians of the Galaxy was finally revealed, and boy, did they reveal a lot of it. Does anyone know how long they clocked, how much time they spent on it? Because it felt like
it was forever. Like 18 or 19 minutes, something like that altogether.
Yeah, I feel like they really wanted to hammer down that this is not like the Avengers game, and this is a single player experience, kind of like the Spider-Man game that people like. So yeah, let's start. Andrew, what were your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy?
I think it was very smart to show more of it, because as cool as Marvel's Avengers was at times, that was the biggest thing. It was so obviously made to be some weird multiplayer procedural thing where there was very obvious on the maps. We're like, okay, fly here, kill this group of people, fly there, kill those group of people. And that's all it was. Mm-hmm. Very repetitive. So shaking that, I think, was extremely smart. And I know some people are not too they don't like the designs of the characters some, but I mean, same kind with the Avengers, you get used to it real quick. I expect it'll grow on people. I mean, people are obviously they're not the TV or the movie characters.
Yeah, to add to that one, I at first I was like, oh my god, Star-Lord like looks like not. But the more I've kind of watched it, the more it started growing on me. And I think when I actually play the game, because this one definitely seems more interesting than Avengers, at least to me, I'll get over it and I'll be totally fine with the looks of the characters. Dan, what are your thoughts on not Avengers, on Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, I think just referring to it as not Avengers is probably the best way to call it. I thought this game looked really, really cool for like 30 seconds. And then it kind of lost me a little bit personally. One thing I did really appreciate was, even though the character designs are not what we would expect, having known these characters for the past several years, even longer, if you're a fan of the comics, the dialogue and the voice acting seemed really spot on to what we would expect from those characters. So I really appreciated that level of detail. And the combat does look fun. I think the trailer kind of suffered. There was some frame rate drops, and it just was not maybe as polished as it could have been. I'm hoping that the final product, when this releases, is actually a really, well done, fully realized game, and does set itself apart from Marvel's Avengers, because it does feel like this could have been like a DLC extension of it, but it's standing alone as its own game. So we're going to have to see what is it doing differently enough to make it be its own IP.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't like, this is, oh crap, we got to pivot and not have to put this in Avengers because people weren't liking that. Let's make it its own thing. I don't think it's that. I mean, because we're getting the Black Panther thing in Avengers, so it's probably not. But
yeah,
that really Darren, I think you pretty much took every thought out of my head and verbalized it. I thought the voice acting was actually pretty decent. I was kind of chuckling throughout the showcase because I thought, that's kind of how they would act. Gameplay looks all right. Where I think it draws a lot of similarities from Avengers is that I just won't be playing it, and so I could care. I don't care about this at all. Like I don't understand why we always have to bring things from other universes into gaming, and from gaming into TV, and like some things are fine in their own lane, in their own universe. And the MCU is supposed to be that roller coaster ride of a movie, and bringing that into a game format, I just don't think is always necessary. And that's kind of how I feel about this as well.
Yeah, I guess to add to that a little bit, there is unlike the Spider-Man game and some of the other Marvel games that have come out, these Eidos ones always seem very much like they want to be this like bizarro MCU in a way. But I mean, for me, the standout thing for this is that I hope all of that licensed music stays, because what made Guardians of the Galaxy really cool was all the music choices. And I kind of hope that we get all of that in this game, because he seems like
they are going to be there.
Well, I like that he like powered up to do an attack and then a song started playing. And I'm like, if I can get all those high points, this game will be really cool. As long as it doesn't take itself too serious. That's the other thing too.
I think the trailer showed that it won't.
Yeah.
And just to get back to what Alex was saying a little bit, I think that with these games, they're treading that line of, okay, people are familiar with the MCU stuff, but we also want to get the classic comic stuff in there. So they're getting that in there, but they're giving you this visualization of what people know to get people in. Because like even on Avengers or how they kind of went in a deep dive here on Guardians of the Galaxy, they're talking to like people that wrote the comics to write these and be involved. That's awesome. I think that they're trying to pivot it eventually to be like, hey, we want to do more original stuff. But, you know, big companies are like, the safe bet is make it look like MCU so people will be dumb and buy it instead of try something new. And I think that's what they want to do eventually. It's just we're in the middle of getting there.
Yeah. No, I like how they didn't add. Well, I know in Avengers they have I forget her name, but the main character who's like, she falls and gets some power. Yes, Miss Marvel. And I whatever. I didn't care about that. It made me not want to play the game even more. I was like, I don't want to be some like random little girl and then get a power. And I isn't she part of the comics though?
Yeah, she is.
She's been around.
Yeah, she is. And in fairness, I've seen there's a lot of people I know who have played this game who really love the character of Miss Marvel, and they love seeing that there. So I think that was a good decision on their part in a lot of ways, especially getting that representation in the MCU that we haven't seen yet. So that's been cool. But I mean, you're going to get it from both ways, where it's like, you know, you didn't really care about that, but there's, you know, a huge demographic of people who I know just love that was included and was a really cool part. And I enjoyed playing as her. I mean, I haven't finished the game yet fully, but the parts I've played, I've really liked so far.
And that's the whole take is I'm just not a comic book fan. So it's not for me. So I know that it's not going to be for me, and that's fine.
I guess what made her more likable, just to kind of to add to that, is that she's kind of fangirling the whole time with the Avengers, and it made it a little bit more fun. Like she wasn't just this hero that pops up, you know. But yeah, I think this game, it definitely has some legs to it, and it comes out this year, hopefully, knock on wood. So yeah, I hopefully see a bit more, but not in the beginning of an E3 press conference. Maybe we don't need 20 minutes of the entire game. Any last thoughts before we move on?
No, I'm just not huge expectation, but pretty big expectations, because as Eidos doing it, and they haven't done their own game by themselves in like 4 years. So they've probably been working on it a while.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be very fleshed out, whatever it's going to be. It's the Deus Ex people.
All right. So we're going to move on to one that for me, I was like, oh my God, like almost fell out of my seat. And unfortunately, they didn't actually show any gameplay of it. Final Fantasy 1 through 6 are getting pixel remasters.
Yeah, which we don't know what that means.
We don't know what that means.
Is that the Octopath style or something different?
I believe so.
That's what I would hope,
because it's coming to mobile and PC, at least at first. And if you play like Final Fantasy 6 on mobile, it looks disgusting.
Yeah,
but it's still 2D. So either they're taking it back to like the old pixel art, but then some of the other games have that pixel art. So I'm guessing this is going to look like Octopath, and they just don't have it ready, but they needed to announce it just to be like, hey, we are working on this, because the big rumor since that Monster Hunter event was, oh yeah, Final Fantasy 1 through 6 is getting the same treatment that's going to look like Octopath. So for me, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to play Final Fantasy 6 again and it not look like clip art, because that's how it looks right now. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? If not,
Final Fantasy is one of the biggest blind spots for me as far as the series goes. So to have the opportunity to play some of these original games, especially on like a mobile device, and just have it available, wherever I am, that's definitely enticing and something I'm going to want to look more into, because it would be really cool to be able to check out this very well beloved series and enjoy, a more modern take on what some of these games have to offer.
Well, definitely don't start on Final Fantasy 1, because that game does not hold your hand at all.
It's rough, and it's definitely it's definitely a like 30-something-year-old game.
Yeah,
like,
if you play it and you think of it as like a big D&D campaign, then it's a bit more manageable. But if you think it's gonna be like a modern RPG, you're gonna be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Like your party's not named. You don't have named people in your group.
I see. Okay.
Stuff like that. But I hope is it, as Nick was kind of getting at this, these mobile ports they have for them kind of blow. They make not the games play just how they play as normal, but they've just made a bunch of visual decisions that just make it look really awful. So hopefully that this will give them the chance to redo that. I don't know if it's going to be this HD 2D thing, the Octopath look, because they specifically called that out in what the Dragon Quest 3 they are redoing like that. And I think it's a pretty hefty undertaking to make something look that way. So I don't know if it's going to be that. I think that they're really setting themselves up to have a bunch of people pissed off if it's not that, because I think that's what people are expecting. But I definitely hope for that, because there's 4 and 6 in particular are excellent games. Some of the best in Final Fantasy series, I'd say 6 in particular.
So right now I'm looking at the Twitter and a couple articles. It looks like it's going to be just pixel perfect. Yeah. Which is fine if they clean it up and it's a bummer if it doesn't look like Octopath, but that original art is still very, very good. Yes. So I'm all for that. I guess we could move on to the next one. Let me open this. So speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Avengers is getting the Black Panther expansion, which I feel like that was announced before the game even came out.
They talked about Black Panther a while ago.
Yeah. No word on that Spider-Man, which I thought was very surprising, because that was like the big announcement before the game ever came out.
But Spider-Man was exclusive to PlayStation players or something like that.
So Sony might be like saying we're going to announce it at our whatever we're going to do eventually, because they own it.
Which is definitely that's not cool, but I mean I guess I get it.
Besides that, the Marvel Avengers stuff, I don't know if anyone's actually really playing the game. I think the last I looked, the stats kind of skyrocket when DLC comes out, and then within a week they bottom out even lower than before. Yeah. But it looks like they're trying to kind of rebuild the game a little bit by giving just more to do and make it more like Destiny. So what do you guys, does anyone have any thoughts on Avengers?
I think this has the opportunity to be almost like a love letter in a way to like Chadwick Boseman, because of course he passed away, and having this big DLC come to the Marvel's Avengers game could really showcase a lot. And I'm really excited to see, I mean, there's a lot of good like combat mechanics that could be brought into this as well. Black Panther has very quickly become one of my favorite Marvel characters. Anytime he shows up in any of the movies, he kicks so much ass and he's so cool. So I would love to see that really translated well to a game and just have it be an authentic like experience jumping into the suit of Black Panther.
Yeah, I think it should be a good time, because I've played through all of Marvel's Avengers, and the problem with it is it gets repetitive when you're going out and doing all those mission based whatever, grinding reputation nonsense to get gear and all that dumb stuff. But it has really cool set pieces and action moments all throughout the story. And if we're going to get more of that with the Black Panther flair, and it's specifically if it's from his point of view or it's in Wakanda mostly, there could actually be a bunch of cool moments. So like as just strictly a campaign, it was pretty fun to go through. It's all the side extra stuff that I didn't really care for. So something like this could be, I would expect it to be pretty cool. And what's really cool about this update is it's free. Come to everybody that owns the game. You don't have to pay for it.
That's nice. That's good.
You can get the game for like $10 now.
Cool.
So it's yeah, I kind of hope it saves the game, because even though I wasn't like a fan of it, there's definitely something there that could be really cool. So let's hope that this turns it around. Moving on, Square Enix had their mobile game showcase, which they do every year because that's where they make all their money. I may be the only person that plays any of these games, I feel like, at TechRaptor.
Probably.
But yeah, Hitman Sniper seems kind of interesting. They've done that before. So getting sort of a sniper Hitman game could be cool. Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, though, that is a big one. It is the Battle Royale Final Fantasy VII game that, quite frankly, I am excited for.
What everybody wants on mobile, a third-person shooter set in Final Fantasy VII universe.
It's so interesting to see. It's so interesting to see this heavy emphasis on the Final Fantasy world. It feels like it's getting a resurgence, like almost a renaissance, where back in the day when I was a kid in the 90s, I felt like all my friends played Final Fantasy games on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. It was all about Final Fantasy. And then it seemed like it kind of died down. I'm sure that's not exactly the case, but it wasn't really on my radar anymore. And now it feels like it's totally coming back. Remakes for everything. We have that other title of it that was announced at the end, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Mobile versions, the pixel versions. I'm just curious to why it's happening. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I never was a huge Final Fantasy guy, but I understand the appeal. But it's just so weird to see all these remakes. It's like every single game is getting attention, every single subsect or something.
It's because I think part of it is because like the entire 7th gen, like PS3 360 was Final Fantasy 13, and that wasn't very well regarded.
There was a string of games that were not like even like said 10 people didn't play 11 much unless you're in the MMO stuff.
14.
12 people kind of forget about. And then 13, and then 14 until they rebooted it, the MMO, which is still going strong now. But there was quite a long period where everybody was kind of down on Final Fantasy.
And now that the games are actually good, I think they're finally going back and good. Here's all the stuff that you actually liked. And
exactly, they're going back. Well, people liked this in the 90s. Let's get the nostalgia in it. And
then they found out another way for me to buy Final Fantasy VI. So good on you, Square.
Yeah.
Any last words on the Square Enix mobile games before we move on to Babylon's Fall? Nope. All right. Babylon's Fall was shown off. Platinum Games' next game, and it's not that I could care less about it. It just is totally not something that I was interested in. So if anyone has something to say about it, please take over.
I'm just looking at it right now.
Well, I know that fans aren't happy with it. The trailer's got a bunch, like the dislike ratio's insanely high.
Oh yeah, 2K dislikes.
But part of it is like, what was it shown off earlier this year or last year? And it looks, I don't want to say like totally different, but it definitely looks not as cool compared to when it was first shown.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Platinum Games, and people aren't going to really know anything until they get it in their hands. Like that's what they're known for, is the gameplay. Really,
it looks like a mobile game, like just graphic wise. Like I don't know what
it looks real odd. Yeah,
it's
because it's supposed to be the next big Platinum Games game.
And that's where it's so weird, where it's like we feel now like we're really getting into the next gen level of games, and we're starting to really experience that. Whereas here's a title that'll be out for at least PS4, PS5, PC, and it looks cool, but I don't know if the level of gameplay will really live up to like some of the the smooth mechanics that we've seen, especially over the past several months. So it'll be curious to see kind of where this goes. And the dislike ratio on the trailer is, I mean, it's sad to see. It's kind of hilarious. I feel bad, but hopefully they they have some success and people like it when it comes out. But there's just really no way to tell right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the original trailer from a year ago.
It's so much better. Holy crap.
It's quite a big difference.
It's so much better.
Because I was like, why are they saying dislikes? This doesn't make sense. And now I say, I'm like, oh, God, it's like a totally different game. Yeah.
It has
that's unfortunate.
800,000 views, 20,000 likes. People are just hyped all in the comments. And then the other one, it's just, is this a Chinese mobile game? What happened to this studio? And they're just like dogging on it.
Oh yeah, these comments are brutal.
Kind of what Dan was getting. I wonder if it's going to be one of those unfortunate games that's just trapped between two gens coming out, and it's going to suffer because of that.
It looks like a PS3 game in some sort. All right. Let's hope it gets better.
Platinum is not known for making beautiful games. I mean, they're probably their best looking game is Nier Automata, and that's still at some places it's like, boy, this is pretty barren. But it was very stylistic. That's usually where they went out. Where this is more like straight up kind of fantasy looking, and it's not covering their the look of it really.
Well, and for all we know, the gameplay could be like insane.
Oh, it's probably that's what Platinum's known for. Yeah,
where it's like, hey, chill out. It doesn't look as good, but now it plays 100 times better. And
exactly.
So,
which I would probably trade for. I would rather have more of a performance bump than nice graphics. They only carry the game so far. I love good graphics. Don't get me wrong, but
Dan, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, nothing. Said what I've got so far.
All right. Any last words there, Alex?
Well, it just looks like whoever made their trailer accidentally exported it at 480p. It was just like a mistake. They're like, guys, we got to get this turned in really quick. He's like, all right, I got it. And he just hit the wrong button. They're like, well, we can't go back now. It's already uploaded.
I mean, it does look, it's pretty rough. It's very mushy. But a game that isn't rough looking that got announced, I think like 2 days ago by accident, and then now it actually got officially announced. Life is Strange Remastered is coming out, as well as Life is Strange 3 True Colors. I know, Alex, you don't like that game. I love it.
I just like making fun of you about it.
It's because I went to Alex's house one day. I was like, oh my God, you got to play this game. And we're playing it, and it's like the slowest part. He's just like, this is so boring.
This is the Call of Duty dude.
Yeah.
Like, know your audience.
No. I was like, look, it's like Call of Duty, except instead of shooting, you're making choices. But yeah, so it's getting remastered. For anyone that played the original Life is Strange, that game needed a remaster desperately because there's some parts in it that are real rough.
Boy, can you tell
the whole thing.
There's parts where it was running at like 1 frame a second at like a huge part, and I'm like, this isn't even done. What's going on here? And then Life is Strange True Colors, which is a third game, which looks pretty cool. I think unfortunately, as just someone who's like a fanboy of these games, they're never gonna hit the peak of 1, and everything else has kind of been diminishing returns ever since. But what do you guys think about Life is Strange getting something remastered?
It's cool to see more attention be focused on this game. So I go through like every 6 months, I remember that this game exists and that I should play it because I have it. I think it was like through PS Plus a long time ago. I was able to get it. So I've got at least the first one, and twice now I've went through to play through it, and I really enjoy it. Like it's a really, really cool game. It's just I'll play it for like a 2 or 3 hour block, and then I won't pick it up again and I'll get distracted. So I need to really sit down and like commit my time to playing through those games. And honestly, I think with the remastered one coming out, I mean, that might be as good a time as any to pick this back up and really finally finish that game and see what the story is all about.
Yeah, I would recommend a remaster because there's some parts where it's like a very like emotional or a big part of the story, and it just turns into a flip book, and you just kind of start laughing or you start clipping through things. It's like, oh, awesome. Any final thoughts on Life is Strange before we move on?
It's basically just The Catcher in the Rye, the video game.
That's it. Exactly.
It's just like a misunderstand teenager who thinks they have a superpower, and now the new superpower is empathy. And Holden Caulfield's was like, everyone's a phony. No one gets me. And I totally got. I was that same loser emo teenager. So I think maybe the reason I don't like it is because I feel like I'm just playing myself.
You're looking in a mirror. You don't
exactly,
like
dude. It's just an emotional, a wormhole of sadness.
At the end of the remaster, you shoot John Lennon. So, it's
exactly.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Well, I'll say what's neat about what's going to be I don't know what the right word is. It's going to be interesting about True Colors is it's not being made by Don't Nod. They're not the ones developing it.
Oh, really?
It's Deck 9 who did Before the Storm also. So this is the first like full-fledged game where it's not Don't Nod doing it. So I wonder what'll be happening with that.
I actually think Before the Storm had more stuff to do gameplay wise.
There you go.
So I actually think that's a good idea because it seems like somebody at that studio was like, maybe we should give him. Oh my God, I froze again. Somebody at that studio was just like, maybe we should give him more to do instead of just walking forward.
We'll see. And then I guess the other thing, the remaster didn't really look very different to me. If it runs better, great.
Yeah.
But it didn't really graphically change that much.
There was, you can see some more textures in the faces, I guess.
But. Yeah, it doesn't need to change that much. Like, not everything needs to be like, oh my God, look at this. We spent $100 million making this look great. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, it looked like they added more textures and then turned the contrast up a little bit. And I honestly like the art direction in those games. I think they have a cool style. And they do a great job bringing the northwest part of the United States to life, I think. So I did like that.
I live in a small coastal town on the Oregon coast, which is where that's set. And it's that's it. Like, except for we don't have some weird ass huge academy. That kids go to.
I think that was my one problem with Life is Strange is playing the first episode. I kept thinking, I'm like, how old are these kids? Is this college or is this high school? It's very
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's pretty independent for 17-year-olds.
That's what my guess is. It's something high school-y ish.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Life is Strange coming out September 10th. And if you pre-order it, you'll get the good Life is Strange. Not that the new one's bad, but let's be honest here. The good ones, for me at least, it's the better one. So at this point, we got the final trailer for Square's show. And I think it was a little divisive just because they've got Final Fantasy 16 coming out and nothing there, and no Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 was announced, which is a little bit of a bummer. But Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, which is a really hard name to say when you're recording a video because I fucked it up a few times. It finally got announced. This is the game that Andrew was actually talking about in our E3 prediction video. Team Ninja is making it, who made Nioh, and they made Ninja Gaiden, right? That's
I don't remember, honestly.
I think Team Ninja did. Yeah. So they made Nioh most recently, and which is the best non-Dark Souls game out there. I actually think it's better than Dark Souls.
It looks like Dark Souls. I'm watching the trailer right now.
And
I cry.
It looks like this is a game that is going to scratch that itch and be definitely harder than your typical Final Fantasy. It looks like it's taking place before Final Fantasy 1, or it is Final Fantasy 1. They weren't too clear on that unless more info has come out.
Just the rumor was that it was a prequel. They haven't said.
And I think it's a prequel just because the quote unquote, now I'm going to get into some Final Fantasy lore for a second. The Warrior of Light looks like way different than these three guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends with him showing up at the end and, then you get to start playing Final Fantasy 1 and a bunch of people are going to go, wow, this game's a mess.
Is this a new game? Like it's
all new.
The graphics are like they're I'm torn. It looks a bit
Babylon Fallish.
Yeah, not quite as bad. It's not bad. It's like some areas look really good, and I know some Japanese games, their art styles are kind of like this, so I wasn't sure if it was a stylistic choice or I don't know. The trailer is split down the middle. I don't know if you guys are looking at these comments, but this was the Chaos trailer. I was eating my eggs at this point.
This is the guy said times.
Yes. I was like, what the hell is happening?
He's a pretty angry guy in this trailer. He's just like, I need to kill Chaos, and he's
like, I'm gonna crush him or something stupid.
I did get a vibe from this trailer that this is gonna be a really violent game. Just the fact that when he grabs Golbez or whatever and he starts punching him in the face, like you don't see that in Final Fantasy. Honestly, it seems a little more toned down.
I'm not sure where the quote came from, but someone linked it in our Slack of Nomura was saying he wanted to make a game about a really angry guy.
Yeah.
So here you go. Yeah. Really angry man.
I mean, this interests me. So I'm curious to see what actual Final Fantasy fans, that's a lot of F's, have to say about it. So what do you guys, what do all three of you guys think about this?
I mean, I'm excited for it. I wish I had a PS5 that I can play the demo right now, but
apparently nobody can.
Yeah, so I don't feel so bad.
It's all messed up at the moment, but
the demo's available now
on PS5. Yeah,
supposedly, allegedly.
That's
allegedly.
Cool.
I'll check it out.
I can download that.
Yeah, I'll check it out later.
Well, what's neat about it is kind of when we were talking about Final Fantasy 1 briefly earlier, is that it's pretty bare bones because it's the first one made. Didn't Final Fantasy 1 even come out on the NES?
Yeah.
So it's there's not very many named characters, but it still kind of set up the formula of things we kind of expect in a Final Fantasy game today, even. And to have that fleshed out more in any way is kind of cool because it's definitely the most bare bones game. Because once even you get to Final Fantasy 2, which is the next game, you got named characters, a big story, lots of dialogue, and that kind of stuff that we're all used to. So if anything can make that feel more like the other games, that's pretty cool. And I mean, Garland is like the original big bad guy that gets referenced in a lot of Final Fantasy games, but a lot of people don't know much about him because there's not much to know. But anything that fleshes him out more should be pretty cool for Final Fantasy people.
Yeah, I'd love to see how this ties into just Final Fantasy in general. And just like, I hope it's hard, but not frustratingly hard. And honestly, I'm watching the trailer right now. I love that the main character does not look like a Final Fantasy character. Like he just looks like a guy. Like he just has a buzzed head. Like,
it looks like Devil May Cry mixed with Demon Souls, but it came out on the PS3 at the end of the life cycle. That's kind of what this looks like.
No, this is it's like an HD remaster where they upscaled it.
Yeah,
that's a PS3 game
from the same people that brought you Life is Strange remaster. We bring you Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins.
I love how the main guy looks like pretty standard and basic, and then the two people flanking him just have really cool hairstyles, and they look like video game characters, whereas the main one just looks like they just 3D printed scan someone. And
it kind of has the same face as boss from your main dude in Saints Row 3.
Oh yeah,
like the generic guy.
Yeah, because it's
original.
It's just so funny. Like I'm watching this again now, and there's the shot of the three of them, and they're fighting this knight in crazy armor, and one guy's got like pink emo hair, and the other guy's like a black samurai, and the middle guy's just did buzzed head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My one hot take from this game is I want to see Chaos in Super Smash Brothers. That's it. That's all I could think of when I was watching this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure now when everybody plays this demo, once this goes out and they go, "You idiots, it's the worst game ever made."
Do you guys remember older games when that were semi-open world? How you would walk through play spaces and there was no little details, there's nothing in any of these rooms. There's no pots. There's no rubble. There's it's just empty. It's very weird. It reminds me of older games because they just didn't have the graphical bandwidth to handle it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm
that's
used
kind of how the original Neo was too. It was pretty barren.
Oh, well, maybe they're doing it on purpose.
Well, I just think it might be a limitation of the studio. They're not the biggest.
Okay. And they're very much gameplay focused over aesthetics. So I think this is another one where the gameplay is going to really save it in the end. But right now, when you just see a trailer, it's just looks very kind of empty. Like what were your thoughts of the presentation just overall?
I didn't really think it was that great. I mean, I guess it kept my attention, but to be honest, I think the highlight for me is Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't think that's saying a lot because I'm not going to play it. And I don't know. It was like a 5. I don't ever want to give anybody like a 0 or anything because I know these guys put in a ton of work. These are just not my games, and that's fine. I understand that. It's interesting. I'm actually kind of interested in the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 pixel remasters. I think that sounds kind of interesting as well. Everything just feels a little off. I can't quite put my finger on it. But nothing really. I'm not hyped for anything. I don't hate anything. I'm just kind of about it all. That's why I'm going to give it a 5. I appreciate your hard work, Square Enix. But you didn't win me over. Not that you care that much, but you didn't.
They only care about your opinion.
Yeah, I know they really do. I know they do. So,
Dan, what are your thoughts?
I'm also leaning toward a 5. For me, it didn't hit for me personally. Now, for all of the Final Fantasy fans out there and people who are super excited for Black Panther and Marvel's Avengers, like, I'm so happy for you all. And I think you're probably going to be really hyped and excited. That's just, that's not what I'm, going to be really hyped for. I did think that the Life is Strange remaster was really cool. So I'm excited to check that out. And not Marvel's Avengers. I'm already getting it confused. Guardians of the Galaxy, that it very much had the vibe of like, I want Guardians of the Galaxy. We have Guardians of the Galaxy at home, and this is the Guardians of the Galaxy we have at home. But it's, I want to see more. I'm interested to see what else is here. And I hope it shapes up to be a cool game, but we'll kind of see how it goes. As far as my, lowlights, the Babylon's Fall just didn't really have much for me, and I'm gonna see kind of what the trajectory of that game is based on the lukewarm response it's getting right now just around the internet. I'll be really interested to see if they can kind of reassess and put out something that people really love, or if this is just a project that's kind of doomed before it even gets off the ground. So it'll be cool. I think they're a great company. I think there's a lot of talented people there, and I think we're definitely going to see some really cool games come out in this year and the coming years. But this showcase was not as strong as it could have been. But hey, I'm happy they're at E3, and I'm looking forward to more of what they're going to be releasing in the future.
Cool. Andrew, what are your thoughts on it?
Maybe I'm more naive or more optimistic than other folks. I think that one of the biggest things where people have a problem with this showcase was there just wasn't that many different things shown. Comparison to a lot of other showcases that have been happening from the bigger publishers. But I think what I really liked about it is it's showing, I think, smart choices of where some of their games are going. Like, I think this Marvel Avengers stuff that they're doing is the right path. I think this Guardians game is actually going to be a pretty big hit when it comes out. People love Marvel stuff, and if this is like the first real like Marvel game people get behind, I could see that being a pretty big deal. And it's coming from the people that make, the recent Deus Ex games, and they haven't made anything really since Mankind Divided, so it's been a while. Assuming they've been working on this, but they worked on some other stuff in the meantime, helping out Crystal Dynamics on some stuff. But I think Guardians is going to be a pretty big thing when it comes out. I guess just the biggest thing is just not much to talk about overall. And I think Babylon's Fall, I think the internet's mad, but they're just, it's part of that review bomb, weird culture stuff that's been happening online. That's kind of horseshit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just reactionary. I wouldn't be too worried about it because there's been a couple of times where Platinum Games has kind of phoned it in. and it's been very obvious. I don't think it's obvious here. They always try weird, cool stuff with combat, and I would expect that to continue here, particularly since this is like their first like really big solo IP that they've created in a long time, because they had Scalebound taken away from them. It was canceled. So I think they're going to be trying really hard with Babylon's Fall. My only big question mark is this Stranger Paradise. I don't know. I have faith in the Neo people, but we'll just have to see.
What would you give it 1 out of 10?
I don't know, 6.5.
So I think for me, I give this probably a 6.5. Kind of, I'm a bit more optimistic, like how Andrew was saying. I think the low for me is that they didn't show Final Fantasy 16, and we still have no word on Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. Kind of a bummer there, especially since those are so big. It's a little weird.
They're doing that. They're doing a remake Part 2.
I mean, they've said they were.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Part 1 ended on a cliffhanger. So I think it's a little weird that they didn't even give like a logo or just like a in progress or something like that. I also feel like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this one, but I feel like maybe something was supposed to be on this conference that just didn't make it. And that's why Guardians of the Galaxy got like this absurdly long chunk of time.
Well, maybe. I mean, because Final Fantasy 16 was shown, and I think that was during PlayStation State of Play back in like February.
Well, it looks like we've wrapped up our talk about Square Enix. Does anybody have anything else to say? Any final thoughts?
I'm just, I'm excited to see, some of the stuff the highlights that we talked about, like that, the Life is Strange remaster looks cool, and seeing what else we'll be seeing with Avengers and Marvel and what other content will be coming that way. So I think that those were the strong parts of this, and we'll, kind of see where it goes from here. But I'm definitely excited for the rest of the year going forward.
I was just going to say, I thought it was weird that all the graphics look like Persona and then we didn't see any Persona. Thought that was very odd.
Like, just to piss off those people.
Yeah, I was like, I saw those graphics and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is clearly going to show something that, and then it's like, no, I guess they just like the art style. Or Square's weird. Yeah. All right. Do you want me to end it, or did you already end it?
I didn't really do anything. I just said it looks like we've wrapped up our conversation. Then Dan said a few words, then you popped back in. You made a joke, and now I'm telling you exactly what happened in the last.
All right, cool. Leave that in.
We're in a time.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up for our coverage of the Square Enix event at E3 2021, and hopefully we hear some Final Fantasy news in the future, because a little odd they didn't do that. Anyways, be sure to follow TechRaptor for the rest of your E3 news, and until next time, take care.